the 106th went on maneuvers in Tennessee. So I took Shirley with me, and we ended up, we got a one-room deal there in, near Nashville. So it was tough there on maneuvers and try to get back and forth. So I decided, when they decided to move back to Camp Atterbury, I'd take Shirley home. I was wondering how I was going to take her home. So what happened, the sergeant and a couple more boys was going in town that night, and then I went in with them, and they was going to pick me up at a certain place and bring me back. Well, they didn't show up, so I said, well, I'll go on my own. I'll take Shirley back to New York with me. So I took her back home, back to northern New York, at Adams, New York, and on the way back, I was in Cleveland, Ohio, and I was sitting there, and the MP came up. I was in the bus station. The MP came up, and he said, "Do you have a pass, Sergeant?" I said, "Yeah, it's in my locker." So I went back by one of the lockers and kept digging in my paint pocket for a key. I said, "I got a key." Another GI came in the door. He stopped a GI by me and wanted to know if he had paperwork. So I said, I'm going to get lost quick. So I took off running down through the crowd and out the front door and down the street. And that was the last of that MP. So I hitchhiked a ride to Arkin, Ohio, and while I was going to hitchhike a ride, but I was trying to hitchhike out of town. So I got on the bus, and the bus was taking me out of town. And next thing I know, we stopped, and the two shore patrols got on. And the shore patrol came back checking passes, and they wanted to know where my pass was. And I said, "It's in the bus station." I mean, the way, that's crazy, me on a bus, and I come, and my clothes and bags in the locker in the bus station, ground bus station. So they said, "We're going to roll you down to the bus station." So I was in the front and one of them was in the back. I said, when this thing stops at a red light, I'm going to get lost. But I never got enough nerve to open the door and run. And so they took me into the bus station. We got down there, and I says, "Look, I don't seem to have my key. Look for a guy that's got a patch like mine, the golden line patch." So we circled around the bus station a couple of laps and didn't see nobody with that patch. I said, "Well, I don't have any pass." They said, "We know you was stringing us along." So they took me up and threw me in the Cincinnati High. They put me in the jail cell. I laid on a big flat wide board there. Later in the morning, the MPs came and took me to Fort Thomas, Kentucky. And they put me with a bunch of criminals down there, and they was really back and forth for lunch. They was out with rifles there guarding you like you was desperate, a criminal, real bad. So I spent about 3 or 4 days there, and a guy from my outfit come, a sergeant. He said, "I'm going to take you back to our outfit, White." He said, "I know you ain't going to take off. I know you too well." So we boarded the train and went back to my outfit there. And I got 30 days restriction, and I got fined $30 for being AWOL. We rode down to where the Russians had caught up with a bunch of wagons. The horses was gone, but they went through and shot a few people, killed a few people, and looped the wagons. And it was probably the Germans trying to get back over the Elbe River away from the Russians. And we found one old man alive. Well, I heard something grumbling. I went over to him, poor old guy. He'd been shot, looked like 3 or 4 times, and he was still alive. and he was trying to talk in German. There's nothing I could do. So we went back over, and I found a nice leather bag. I put in some oats and carnation milk and socks and a few other odds and ends. And all of a sudden, I hadn't paid any attention, and I looked up, and there's a Russian soldier by me. He got off his horse, took his rifle, and yanked that bag out of my hand, leather bag out of my hand, shook the stuff out of it, and looked at the bag, and got back on the horse and rode off. So I bundled up some of that stuff and tied it on the back of the bike. So we rode down to the Elbe River. I went down home. Arlo Barden went down with me, a friend of mine. So we went down home there in West Virginia, and we got a job in the coal mines down at Van. So we was working mainline track. I remember one deal which we was lucky was we was on the night shift, 11 to 7, and we was loading slate into this car which was on the mainline track. And we had that slate car, just we'll say, full of slate, which slate is real heavy. I guess probably it's like iron ore, really heavy. And all of a sudden I hear the motor coming, and it was flying, seemed to be really in high gear. There was another track off to the side. So I told Arlo, I said, get up in that entrance quick, because there could be a big pile up here. And the motor came down through and hit that big car of slate, and down through there it went with a bang. Lucky it didn't rack. Arlo, he froze, he couldn't move. If it had a rack, he'd have been killed. He froze and didn't even move. And so they had a narrow door set up. There's a narrow door ghost car vent. Some way they vent in the mines. I'm not that familiar with all the conditions about air doing the air. And that thing went right hit that door down there. It must have really, things flew and it hit that air vent door. And I don't even know what happened. Nobody told us anything after that, or what happened to the car or nothing. So I don't know where they ended up pushing that car full of slate to. Boy, it must have shook him up. All of a sudden, his view is not that good in the coal mines. You got them old hats on. Of course, there's light on the motor too. But all of a sudden come up, no way in the world he'd stop. He had a full load of coal, just like a tractor trailer, and he was really balling it down through there. And they set low, them motors in the mines, they set low, and it'd be hard to turn them over. And they weigh about 30 ton, and they're solid built. As long as you didn't get thrown out or anything, you'd probably be all right if something didn't fly and hit you. And lucky something didn't hit him and kill him. So we worked mainline track, fixing a mainline track, and one night they took us through the mines and out on the other side. There was about 12 of us. We was greenhorns anyway. We didn't know anything about mines. I think we had a couple of cars with a motor pulling them. So we drove all the way through the mountain out the other side. And the entrance to the other mountain, which was all cracked, but they had timbers under it to hold it up. The foreman took us over and he said the job tonight will be taking down the top, which is bad over here. I looked around at it, it's all cracked and timbers under it. And I said, I don't think I want any part of it. He said, you don't? And I said, no. He said, okay, you're fired. I says, good. I says, call the motorman, have him come and get me. So I was standing there, I was manning the Hornet. And he looked at the other guys and he said, are y'all going to work tonight or what? They said, what did White say? And White said he didn't want any part of it. He said, well, we don't either end. Well, he said, okay, all of you are fired. Well, I said, well, get us out of here then. So he called the motor radio, and the motor come and got us, took us back through the mines again and out. We had to go in this building where we hung up our batteries off the lantern. We was up at one end of the building. The foreman, he was down on the other end of the building. I began to get a little more hot under the cap. So I took my old cap off and I gave it a sail down through there, and it bounced in front of him, just missed him. And then I started after him, and then they run and grabbed me and brought me back and cooled me off a little bit, and then we left, and that was the end of my coal mining deal. But later, the president of the company was Price, and he was from Boone County and sort of a distant relative. I got a letter from him maybe a month after that and said, if you want a job, come on down, and says, I'll have a job for you. But I never answered him and never went back down again, so that ended my coal mining deal at Van, you know.